Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Monday Nitro Party. I am one of your hosts, Josh Alba, and I have with me also Jonas Barnes. Jonas,
What-
what's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm just off of work. Ain't doing shit on Valentine's Day here today.
Same.
Doing this wrestling show with you and our
Yes.
fucking wonderful guest that you're gonna introduce here.
Yes, I thought I'd just wear red. That's the most effort I'm going to put in for today and buy myself chocolate tomorrow. But it's Valentine's Day and we're spending it with a very special guest with us. He is the legend. He is the best of this shit. Larry Legend. Larry, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And hey, we're three of a kind, all splashes of red.
Yeah, right.
We're feeling the spirit, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for
Absolutely, man.
joining us. First question we want to ask right away. What was the first moment where you realized, yeah, wrestling is for me?
I guess when you say is for me, you mean became like a fan, like became hooked on it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Like just interested in it.
I remember when Saturday Night Live was preempted for Hogan versus Andre again.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, wow, this is a big deal. Because wrestling was kind of like treated like a sport, kind
Yeah.
of like how, football is on primetime TV and baseball. And because there was so much hype around wrestling just being on TV like regular sports, I
Hmm.
can say that my origins to being like, this is my deal. This is the thing that I'm gonna follow. The way that everybody wants a starter jacket and all this other sports stuff. I'm gonna be the wrestling guy. And I felt like that when at that point in time, whenever wrestling was on like regular TV, I hate to say regular TV, but I mean like the low channels, 2, 11, 13, the big ones. I just felt like it was like, see, it's legit. It's legit if it's on the regular channels at regular hours. Preempting
Hmm.
something like Saturday Night Live. We all know Saturday Night Live. Well, there were certain times of the year where Saturday Night Live was preempted, and you got Saturday night's main event. And I always remember those being like a big deal, and kind of like I was like, this is my thing. The wrestling is my thing.
Hmm.
I remember when wrestling was when it would come up on Saturday night's main event and it would be on like NBC and shit. I remember that when it was just like, whoa, it's not on USA or it's not on like one of the cable channels. Like it's on a channel that everybody can get.
Right,
And that
right.
was crazy.
Yeah. I
That's
remember
what.
I actually remember them covering on the news on Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. Like it was when the sports was on in right here in Baltimore, they had a little box of just the slam and talking about the like, everybody was there to see this. Andre the Giant losing to Hulk Hogan in Pontiac. I remember it vividly. And I was like, yo, see? Like, as far as
Yeah.
growing up and people being like, it's fake, it's phony. Why do you like that phone? You couldn't deny that moment. You couldn't deny that many people getting together for those two figures in the sports and entertainment world coming together for a match and Hulk Hogan slamming the Giant. It couldn't be more storybook, more Jack and the Beanstalk, more life than that moment. And I remember as a kid that little blurb. And I remember I was so excited to stay up for the news that night. The fact that I got to see a little tiny snippet of wrestling up in there. So yeah, it was a big deal. That's kind of like when I was like, yo, I guess that's what legitimized it to me. Like, this is like major motion picture stuff. This isn't like, just Saturday after cartoons. Sometimes it's prime time. And
Right.
sometimes it's got the larger than life stars that can even make it on the news.
Mm.
So that's okay. So, Josh, before you continue, now this transitions into another question that I have. What was the first thing that you saw that made you go, okay, this is a show. Like this is entertainment. Like the transition from sport, like, quote unquote legitimate sport, even though I still feel like it is, but to where when you saw something happen where you're like, okay, this is a performance. Like this is where they're like they're dance partners, like that type of thing. Do you remember when that first clicked in your head?
I can't. Let's see. That's a tough one. I mean, I can tell you that like elements like Jake the Snake,
Sure.
and like Hacksaw Jim Duggan's 2x4, the Big Boss Man's nightstick and the $1 Million Man's $1 Million Belt.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that those things were like props that like kind of like accentuated this like sport.
Right.
I realized that there was an element of like showiness in it that wasn't I acknowledge that right on the costumes, but I can tell you now, I really cannot pinpoint if this was a scene from a movie, but I feel like I remember an interviewer interviewing two hulking big barbarian looking guys that kind of like, to me, I would say were like archetypes of the warlord and the barbarian. And the announcer held the microphone up and he goes, da 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 da. How do you feel about that? And he held it towards, let's say, the barbarian of the two, and the wrestler bit the microphone off. He bit the top of the microphone off. And like, as a kid, I was like double over.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Breath gone. Like, what is going on? What have I just seen?
Right.
But it was hammered forward, like you knew the zaniness of what it was that could happen in any wrestling show with these characters.
You're like, now I know what I'm getting into. Like,
right,
yeah.
I'm getting into some like
that's wild
comic book, cartoon, horror movie stuff where it's like, Jason ripping the woman's jaw out. It's like that elicited a huge laugh from me because I'm like, is this real? Like, I know it's not, but it's like, is this like the type of stuff that you can see when you're watching this stuff? So I got those parts early on. As far as like the dance, like, posting for a suplex or posting for a body slam.
Right.
I really didn't understand that until I started backyard wrestling. I guess it wasn't until like WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy came out and there was like the creator wrestler mode on those that I started to like be able to be like, oh, so that pile driver that Jerry Lawler's giving, like the guy's putting his fucking hands on his thighs.
Yeah.
When Lawler sits down, and nobody did this better than RVD. When Lawler sits down, this you can kind of like pop up from that, like, oh shit, I just got fucking pile driven. Like I didn't realize that part of it until I started backyard wrestling, which I did once I dropped out of college. I dropped out of college and I kind of started backyard wrestling during like our breaks with my friends, but really rudimentary stuff, just like, and filming us doing it. But it wasn't until we actually started being like characters with music and those two games came out, No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000, that I really started to be like, oh, so these guys are like, they're doing like post, like, like moves. They're doing these moves. You learn how to do the move and everybody does the same thing to do it. The choke slam is always, we both go down, we both come up. You know what I mean? It's never like he's just muscling him up with his strong ass shoulder and shit. It's like we both go down, we both go up, So I'd say like 98, 99 is when I really started to realize these guys are dancing. This is a dance that they're doing together.
Dude, nobody takes a head spike move better than RVD. Like whether it's a DDT or a pile driver or that fucking one time that he took into RKO, and he like landed on the top of his head. It was just like it was one of the nastiest looking moves ever. And then when you look at it with different eyes, like when you've been watching wrestling for a long time, or like, in your case, if you are a wrestler, like you see how he lands, you're like, for like to a layman, that looks like he just literally destroyed his neck. But then when you look at it again, you're like, oh shit, like, okay, I see how he sold that. He sold that great. Like that was like, that's a straight up performance.
Indeed.
Which I love.
All those years of yoga are what was strengthening RVD to, it's sad because now, because we watched him so intently in his youth, now you really can see how much slower, how much, I don't want to say labored it is. He can still go, but the years and years of that lifestyle, even with the yoga, has just aged the man's body. And
You don't think maybe he's just higher now? He's just
well,
smoking more weed.
That could be it too, and also maybe not so much in practice.
Right.
I mean, when we were seeing the feats that he did, I mean, it was like it was a grind.
Yeah.
He was in it. Now he's kind of like on the beach. I believe he's still taking care of his wife. I don't know how that goes. That maybe not touch that, but I know
he has
I know
like
his
3 wives.
Yeah.
I know one of them was ill. Like his original wife got very ill, and he like actually took a step back to care for her. And now I see him with like multiple babes on his arms. So more power to fucking Rob Van Dam, mighty Sagittarius like myself.
Dude, me as well, man. Right there. I'm part of the Sagittarius crew.
We're special.
Absolutely, man. Rob Van Dam was one of my favorites growing up because I would watch. I remember the reason I asked you the question about the first time that you saw that it was a dance is there was 2 things that stuck out in my head when I was watching younger. It was the first one was George the Animal Steel. Seeing him rip up the turnbuckles with his mouth, I was like, okay, this guy's a fucking like straight up crazy person. Like this is awesome.
He's a crazy person.
Yeah, this is wild. Like, and I'm seeing him just like destroy shit, and I'm like, oh, it's crazy. And then the other one was the Jake the Snake bite when he bit Randy Savage's arm. I was like, get the fuck out of here. He just like, and the blood came down and everything. I was like, okay, like I know
that was wild.
Yeah, like even as a kid, I'm like, I know legally he can't fuck with that, but like it was still awesome. Like it was awesome to see it.
Just to kind of acai moonsault off of that to talk about another real moment for me. Now, I didn't see this, but I came over to visit my aunt, and my uncle told me that I just missed it. And I was like, what did I just miss? And he was like, that big fat dude just crushed Jake the Snake Roberts' snake on TV. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, he did the thing where he runs and he just sat his big fat ass down on it. And then he went like this. And my uncle started motioning what he did. And I was flabbergasted. I'm like, what? And this is before like YouTube and shit,
Yeah.
I missed it. We didn't get the pay-per-views at this time. And if you missed it on Saturday, you missed it. But he was talking about when Earthquake killed Damien.
Yeah.
Damien begot Lucifer. But my uncle was telling me about that, and it's just so interesting that, again, to go back to the origins of the question, when did you realize it was a performance? The snake, these props, these things that they were bringing out with them that sometimes could get worked into it,
right?
Which was like so exciting when the bird got worked into it, or the bulldog's dog would take out. Those were like, I'm like, this shit is like nothing else, really. Like nothing else. You can't see this in any basketball game. They're just gonna run back and forth, and then it's over. And it's gonna be exciting, but you're never gonna see like the bird swoop down and start to like distract the other team, or the manager from one side like going over and socking the other manager, and all the guys are like, "What are you doing to our manager?" Like, it's never gonna happen, So
that shit was fun.
Hell yeah.
That whole era of WWF where it had all that crazy over the top shit that made no sense. Like even there's no sense to it at all. But that whole era, even though a lot of like when people talk about it in the past, they talk about that being a quote unquote shitty era of WWF because they just were like churning out character after character after character. But a lot of that stuff was so fun to watch just as a kid, like watching Papa Shango do his voodoo crazy shit to the Ultimate Warrior, like making that oil come out of his scalp for like as a kid, I'm looking at it going, what the fuck is this? Like this is
and I mean that led to the urban legend of Ultimate Warrior dying. Okay, so everyone thought there was an urban legend that the original Ultimate Warrior died.
Yeah.
And the WrestleMania 8 Warrior that came down to make the save was a different guy because his hair was cut. It wasn't a sandy blonde, and he had lost all the muscle mass because he wasn't working. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when I was a kid, part of the origin of that he died was that the curse Papa Shango put on him worked, and that they had to rush him to the hospital. He died, and they covered it up.
Yep. It's fucking crazy. And also, like when you look at somebody like Papa Shango, like if you're a fan from way back for the Papa Shango days, and then you see the Godfather pop up, you're like, that motherfucker was doing voodoo before. Like now he's walking around with hose. Like
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's Shakespearean it's Shakespearean performance, the way that there are a troupe of performers that know how to do this certain style of performance, and throughout their longevity of being in it, they can sometimes like morph into a whole nother archetype and have like branches on the tree of being like this other character, but you can trace their origins back to when they were, that. And the Godfather is because of that is why I feel like he is one of a bona fide Hall of Famer. All of those gimmicks, all of those years, and excelling at a mid-card level at all of them. And, you talk about a company guy. He went on after Owen Hart fell, in the Kemper Arena in 1999 after Owen Hart fell. I'm almost sure that the first match to go on then was Godfather, or maybe that was his match. Was it may have been Godfather was scheduled to fight Owen Hart, and then Jeff Jarrett stepped in for him. But
yeah, I remember that because I remember Godfather and Jarrett when they like that fucking thing. That was so crazy that they still did the backstage interview segment like right after it happened, and like these dudes are just crying their eyes out like before they go out to do this match. And like I remember seeing that part of it, and I'm just like, okay, like there's a point where you stop the fucking show, like, and that's past that point. Like you don't put a microphone in these dudes' face and have them do that. Like, I mean, if they're gonna go out and have their match, that's fine. Like they're gonna go out and have their match, do it like however they want to do it. But to have them doing the backstage interview part, I was just like, that's like that stunk like Vince McMahon just going like, it's gotta go on, we gotta keep doing it. It's like, all right, fucking pump the brakes on that a little bit, like just a little.
Here's the thing about it though, and I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to defend him at all. But someone once said you have got to think of Vince McMahon as akin to Jim Henson, and all of the performers are different Muppets.
Yeah,
Bird, Oscar the Grouch, whatever. And although we as an audience know that there's a human being behind that Muppet that is, making the show,
right?
They have to detach themselves personally from, I hate to say it, but almost like the soul.
Sure.
The soul of what is behind this show, because it's got to go on.
Yeah, and I could totally see that, and I do agree with that. And I think that's where, like, when I saw that part, like them going out and doing the match, that in my like, because I was still young when that was going on, but even though, like, even at my young age, I understood them continuing the matches. But I remember seeing like all of them. They were like everybody that did a backstage interview from that point forward in the pay-per-view was just in tears.
But that's what I mean. Like I'm saying, like, in that mindset of like, these are just my toys, these are just my shits.
Right.
Like, they had a whole fucking format of a show to do, and that format included like the Deborah and the Jeff Jarrett doing a fucking like whatever they're supposed to do to fill time. We don't have anything else we can go to. So I understand that y'all are hurting. I am too, but come on, out there.
Right. Yeah. Like,
and
these people paid their money.
Yeah, and you're getting paid. You're my fucking, I hate to say it, but you're my slaves. You're my hose. I'm a fucking pimp. You're my hose.
I'm pretty sure Vince said the exact same thing, like when that was going on.
Dude, his mindset is like, for $250,000, you'll forget about it because that's probably going to be your payout from this one show.
Dude,
yeah, it was wild. It was weird. I was gonna bring up because you guys watched it. You guys were like in your teens, more I guess understanding. I don't know what the right word is. When I watched it, I was only like 9, and I was so like confused as into why they were crying. And then when they said like he's dead, I was just like, what?
Is this part of the show?
Yeah, and then that's when my grandmother, she came in to watch it with us. She's like trying to figure out, what do you mean somebody died? She's like, she has no idea what's going on. And then when she started, like, I guess watching the show a little more, she was like, did you see anything? She was asking me, did you see anything? I'm like, I don't know, I didn't see anything. And It was a weird time too. Also, I mean, for me, it was a weird time to grow up into watching wrestling too. Around that time, because you've had I grew up around the Austin stuff, like the Austin Tyson stuff. I watched live the Tyson interview on UPN. I don't know if you guys remember that, where he just went and just went fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that live as a
Oh, wow.
you got spoiled as a kid with
I was
wrestling.
like, what is happening? My mom really tried after like all that stuff. She's like, why are you watching this? Because the first time she saw me watching wrestling was around the time with Ultimate Warrior and Razor Ramon, because she rented the tapes for us to watch that.
Yeah.
But then I'm watching a totally different product on
Yeah,
TV.
you're like talking like 93 versus 98. Like,
Yeah,
that's apples and
totally
oranges.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
completely
93 is
different.
still Big Boss Man and Nails and Doink the Clown, you know, like and
mhm,
the world of the characters. 98 is like Badass Billy Gunn, and
Puppies.
Pain, you know, and
Yep.
Mankind. Like, so yeah, those are two vastly different eras. I graduated high school the night that Owen Hart fell from the Kemper Arena, May 23rd, 1999. Myself and my best friend to this day, Craig Swinson, we were walking across the stage receiving our diplomas. Now, I did not set my VCR to record. I planned on just coming home and recording the replay. By the time I did get home from graduating high school, the show was like kind of wrapping up. I believe Undertaker won the belt or something, and Shane was like flipping off the camera, and Undertaker was powdering with the belt like I just won.
Mhm.
And then my best friend Craig called me, and he was like, "Did you hear about Owen Hart?" I was like, "No, I'm about to tape it right now." He was like, I said, "Did he win the Intercontinental title?" And he's like, "No, he died." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, they were lowering him from the top of the building like the Blue Blazer, and something happened, and he fell to the ring and died." And then I didn't even tape it.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be like I think hearing about it in that fashion and then being like, well, fuck, now I got to watch this. Like, I don't think that would be what my brain would have done at that time,
I,
because yeah,
I will tell you, it was edited. The replay was obviously edited in,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know. But I hear that even the live broadcast was kind of like it was a perfect storm of like the cameras doing something else when it happened.
no, this is actually so the live broadcast. I've seen a video of the live broadcast. I mean, this was a while ago, but I saw a video of the live broadcast. What actually happened, and this is credit to the cameraman. There was a cameraman that was focused on
The audience.
Owen being low, no, on Owen being lowered. And as soon as the click happened, as soon as that carabiner broke, that cameraman immediately shot his camera to the side, like to the audience. Like, and it was lightning quick.
I might have
So
walked in after that because I remember seeing like the audience reaction to that,
yeah.
and it
And
was just weird.
and that's what, yeah, so that cameraman that had his camera on Owen, as soon as like when I talk lightning speed, I'm talking as soon as that thing detached, he immediately shot the camera to the side. And when he shot it to the side, it was focused just directly on the audience. And then he kept the camera nowhere near. And like the only reason I even know that this was like when I rewatched the video is because you can tell when he takes the camera and shoots it over to the audience, you can hear in the background all the commotion and stuff. So like it's definitely like a live feed. But yeah, credit to him for being able to fucking do that quick, because he had his camera focused on Owen the whole time. And then like that was also a weird thing, because then it got into like conspiracy theories and shit, where they were saying like that Farouk or something was up there, like that was one of the people controlling it or some shit, and like he broke it. And then like they were saying that it was like the people that rigged up the harness, they did it on purpose, and like all this other, there was so many like just bullshit conspiracy theory things that happened during that time. Because I remember, like, again, I was young. Like, I think I graduated in 2001, is when I graduated high school. So we're similar in age.
Yeah.
But like, even at that time, I was like, oh, that sounds like bullshit. I was like, it's like to me, I was just like, sounds like the equipment just malfunctioned. But for years, those conspiracy theories kept on going. Like it was one of those things that was like pervasive. It just happened, like kept going and going and going.
Well, I do believe the man was 33 years old.
Yeah.
And they did get the F out of the WWF, so now it's WWE.
Yeah.
And when you turn that belt on the side so that it's like, when the way most champions carry it out, it looks like a 33.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of conspiracies about like the things you've got to do, like the price you have to pay,
Right.
you to like reach the top of the pyramid, so
Got to do the politics. You gotta do all the things.
you got to do the mob thing.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
So like if you believe that like wrestling is from the same muckety muck as the mafia and its origins are like all linked to all types of other things, then it's not too far out of the fucking realm of possibility that man was set up, like
Right. I mean, there's aspects of it that could very well be true. Like, and I mean, especially if you go back, like when I used to watch, when I was watching the Dark Side of the Ring documentary series, and they were sitting on that round table and they were talking about like the way that fans and stuff used to be back in the day, where they're like they straight up hated the heels and like wanted to beat the shit out of them after the thing, and like them talking about that stuff and how wrestling when it started in the territory days, how like it was nasty. Like it was nasty. Like they would jump people into like certain groups of wrestlers. Like they would beat the
absolutely,
fucking piss out of them.
yeah, yep, yeah.
You know?
So these are the same types of guys that like are involved in organized crime, like the same type of like machinations, So yeah,
Sure.
like all of these deaths before 40, all of these like, just I was just watching one of those top 20s, those rabbit holes you can go down on the old
Oh yeah.
like whatever happened to this diva, whatever happened to Melina, Oksana, all these girls I had forgotten about. And then they got to Ashley Massaro. Do you guys remember Ashley?
Oh yeah.
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 Wild, right?
Yeah. Her story was nuts because like, man, hers was a legitimately tragic story because like she came into the business as somebody that was like wide-eyed, like I'm going to be a wrestler, like really really wanted to do it, and she happened to be eye candy, but like she was really working on trying to be a good wrestler. And then she's one of those ones that legitimately got bullied to death, like straight up. And it's just like, fuck, man. Like sometimes you forget that that's a real thing that happens. The higher you get up in the industry. And like, I mean, I don't have a lot of knowledge about what happens on the indie scene, and I'm sure that shit happens there too. But the higher you get up and the more money that's attached to it, the nastier and nastier it gets. And Ashley was one of those ones that you could tell that she actually gave a fuck about being in the ring and like doing the thing. And next thing you know, yeah, she leaves the business. And then I think it was like 3 or 4 years. It didn't take long before, and yeah, hers was kind of one of those ones that like I think when you look back at the wrestler deaths that are like the tragic ones, hers is right at the top of the list because she
wasn't even 40.
No, she was young. She was super young. And I mean, a lot of these things happen because like that also, if you go into the thing when you're talking about CTE and you're talking about stuff like that, like as far as all that shit goes, like that obviously was one of the things that really caused a lot of them. Like Test was one of the ones that was also super tragic because he was young and like, dude, he could have been like a superstar. Like he legitimately could have been. But he's one of the ones that I think for sure. I think CTE was a big problem with him.
You know what? Tess was a superstar. He was a superstar.
Yeah.
He was a mega superstar in my eyes. I know what you mean. You mean like
right.
To the level of like
He should have been world champion 10 times over.
He was gonna be.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the conspiracy about his name?
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna quote New Jack.
Okay.
There is a hold on, look, don't let me get choked up here. Maybe I shouldn't be speaking so much, but there is an RF video shoot interview in a hotel room with Iron Sheik, New Jack, and Honky Tonk Man.
Okay.
And in that shoot interview, New Jack exclaims that the reason that they gave him the name Test was because that's exactly what he was, a guinea pig for a new type of anabolic steroid that they could start to use on the wrestlers that would fly underneath the radar of drug testing. And it obviously all went awry, and that's the reason that it led to his suicide or death or whatever.
Right.
Now, these guys were all very drunk. Honky Tonk Man, New Jack, and Iron Sheik. They're all very a lot of things, actually.
New Jack fucked up. Get out of here. No way.
Yeah, right. In an RF video shoot interview.
Right.
But it kind of adds up when you really think of the lyrics to Triple H's theme, The Game, about changing your name and going down in flames and all of these things that song kind of paints the blueprint for what's gonna happen if you get involved in the game.
Yeah. I mean, that does make a lot of sense. And also, like, looking back, if you look at the way that Test looked, like his body, like he had the quintessential ripped, like, chiseled up body, but you could tell also that there was some other shit going on with it.
Once he got the short hair Test, once he got to frosted tips Test,
yep,
the body wasn't natural. You're right.
That's what I mean.
Always had a huge, tall, big good old boy. Like, this guy will fuck us up in a bar fight. Like, I'm steering clear of him. Like, we're getting a weapon just naturally.
Right.
Kind of like Big Cass. I'd say kind of akin to Big Cass right now.
Yeah.
But then, like, the abs, the body just started looking like marble, like cement.
Started looking real veiny too. Real veiny.
So that's
yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, New Jack says that that's a conspiracy, that there's so much blood steeped on the letters WWE.
Oh God, yeah.
That's part of what keeps the machine going. Like, part of the idea of even becoming part of the fraternity is that you're going to go down in flames. We're going to take your name. We're change it, and we're the machine. We keep going, but it's all about how you play the game.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you bring that up too, because now when I think about it, all these wrestlers that come into WWE from the indies and also from like smaller promotions and stuff, the very few times that they get to keep their name, I'm shocked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when they get to go on to WWE under their real name or under the name that they made their name on, like when I saw Samoa Joe hit WWE and keep Samoa Joe, I was fucking shocked.
I mean, like, I do believe that that's a new thing. I think that is a very new thing. It was very rare that they could back in the day, but I think that now they have to. They can't deny the eyes of the wrestling community on a Leo Rush or Cedric Alexander before they make it, or Kyle O'Reilly, any of the ROH guys. I almost feel like it started with the ROH guys.
That would make sense. That would absolutely make sense.
Once they started, Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen, they made Steen change his name. They made El Generico.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like they made Mox. Mox was Dean Ambrose. They made Tyler Black. Tyler Black was Seth Rollins. So I don't know when it changed, but at some point there was a shift.
Yeah, because like AJ Styles kept his name.
AJ kept his name. Yup.
Also you got Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson coming in. Like they're keeping their name. And like it was also, but what you said, like that does make sense because if you can't deny what they were when they were in a previous promotion. Like if CM Punk would have came into WWE under some bullshit name, people would have been like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like what are you doing?
What are you guys doing? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I think got fucked up with Taya Valkyrie, because when they brought her in to NXT and they called her I don't even remember her name. It was some
I don't even remember it either. She was always Tyra to me.
Yeah. And it was like, I think it was Frankie Monet, I think is what it was. It
that
was
does ring a bell. That does ring a bell, yeah.
So when I'm watching her on NXT and like I'm watching her character and stuff, I mean, like I felt kind of bad for her because people give her a lot of shit on Twitter and on social media for the name change because they were just like, what are you doing? Like, what is this Frankie Monet bullshit? Like, you're Taya. And she was like, I'm working with what I can, like that type of thing. But like when she came in there, I was like, yo, that's Taya. Like, there's like, who is this?
So that's go ahead.
No, it's just like that was Taya. Like everybody that's watching this knows that that's Taya Valkyrie, and also everybody was like psyched that she was actually bumping up into NXT and like WWE and stuff. But then like you could tell with her that it was just like you could tell she didn't want to be there. As soon as she got there, she was kind of like, nah, this ain't my thing. Like, and now she's killing it in everywhere else, as she always has been.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Stokely Hathaway. Once he got to NXT, he became Malcolm Bivens, and now he's back to Stokely Hathaway. So what I was going to say is that depending on who you are, they flex on you. It's like they can flex on certain talent. Like, you should be so happy to be here. Did they change Austin Aries' name when he got there? Because Austin Aries was there for a little bit, wasn't he?
They didn't. They didn't change his name, and I was kind of shocked by that. But also,
they changed Kenta's name.
Yeah, Kenta.
Ugh, yeah, that was
that was weird because they showed Kenta and then they went to Hideo
Itami,
yeah. Who also the short-lived Cabal. What was
oh yeah, Loki.
Loki was there as Cabal.
Yeah. Loki came in there. They gave him that one.
Asuka.
Yeah,
but that worked out, I guess.
Yeah, Asuka. Yeah, Asuka's one of the success stories. As far as that goes, I think it was also like it's funny they bring up Austin Aries because I feel like Austin Aries, like if anybody's gonna tell him to go fuck themselves, it's gonna be him. Like you know what I mean? Like if they were like, we're gonna change your name to something else, he's like, fuck you are. You're not gonna change my name to anything, or I'm not gonna sign.
I mean, he's always been very nice to me. Always been personally very nice to me because I always make sure I get everything that he wants me to say and get it expertly, and I do it. And I ring bells with the double A. Anybody's name that's a double A, I got it. But he's like a hero of mine because of how outspoken he is and how he just doesn't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like,
I'm
saying what I'm saying. I didn't like what he did to Christy Hemme, but then again, Christy Hemme was taking a job away from a qualified ring announcer, just because she looked the way she looked and she didn't get shit right. So I don't agree with his practices of being a dick sometimes, but he's a real hero in as much as you're not going to bully him. He knows his worth.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he is. And that's, people can say what they want about Austin Aries. And like, I've had my disagreements with some of the shit that he's done. But at the same time, yeah, you are right. He's in the sense of somebody who just truly does not give a fuck and will say what he wants to say and will say what's on his mind and does know his worth, because that's the thing. WWE wasted the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. And if they would have put the rocket ship on his ass and let it go, like he would have been massive in WWE. Like people were behind him, but fuck.
But dude, get into the troll though. Get into the troll. They push someone like Enzo,
right?
Who is very entertaining, gonna sell a lot of merch and shit, but like, come on,
right?
Like, come on, guys, And they're doing that so that we can be like, oh, come on. And they're doing it so that the workers can also be like, oh, come on. Like that's what I'm saying. That's part of the game. That it all goes back to Triple H's theme.
Mm-hmm.
All about the game and how you're gonna react to this. Okay, time to bring Adam Cole up from NXT. You know what? We're going to make you a manager. We're going to make you a manager, and you're going to manage EC3. You ready?
Yeah.
That was
You
insane.
ready? And it's like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. Uh-oh. That means you don't win this game.
Yeah. That means you fucked up.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's because who knows? Maybe we just wanted to say that to see the way you'd react.
Yeah. Absolutely. So here's a question for both you guys then. Josh, I'll start with you on this one. What's your favorite troll job? What's your favorite troll job that you've seen unfold live on TV? Somebody that just fucking trolled the shit out of one of the other wrestlers.
Oh man, I really can't. Damn, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can tell you what mine is, and you can piggyback off that if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Mine is Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my favorite fucking things ever, where Shawn Michaels was just overselling everything like fucking crazy. That was probably like watching that happen live on the pay-per-view. I was in tears laughing. Like when he would kick him in the corner and he would fly up in the air 4 feet. Dude, I'm dying. And my friend's like, what's so goddamn funny? I'm like, dude, this is not like Shawn Michaels is one of the best sellers in the business. And this is hilarious. I was like, I guarantee you he's doing this because Hulk Hogan tried to pull some political shit. And he was just like, all right, fine, fuck you then. And went out and did that.
I was there.
You were there?
Nice.
I was there. I was at that match. That was the last SummerSlam I ever attended. I loved every second of it. I loved every second of it because I acknowledged that Shawn Michaels was overselling, but Shawn Michaels is such a good worker that he could actually make that into a good match. Like the match was actually really good if you ask me. Even despite all of that fucking like I'm gonna fuck around.
Oh yeah.
It was still like a decent match, the best match that I think that they could have had.
Easily, yeah. And also the build up to that storyline, the build up to that match was fucking great. It was one of the better storyline buildups ever. And then you get to this match, and yeah, it was a good match. But then, like, when he hits him with the big boot and he does like a twirl and then falls down, dude. Oh my God. I was like, and you know, that was such a big fuck you to Hogan. Like, you know, that in the, like, he was probably furious the whole match, which just that makes me happy too. Like, it's just.
I think he was happy because he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
He was getting half the gate. You know, that's Hogan's deal, half the gate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what everyone's coming to see him. I don't know. That was like, what, 2006? Maybe it was different by then. I don't think
it was 06 or 08, but
yeah, it was 06 or something. But I guess I gotta say my biggest would be Goldberg William Regal on Nitro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, brother, I'll do the job, but can you keep up?
Yeah, I'm gonna expose your ass the whole time.
Yeah, I like that one. That's one that's one because there's always kind of like that adage that like big muscle beat everything. And remember, William Regal, he really didn't have many muscles back then, Laura. I mean, I don't want to say he was flabby. He was thick. You could tell he was a big guy.
Yep.
But he wasn't all cut up. You know, he wasn't all like I'm in the gym every day clanging and banging. Whereas Goldberg looked like he stepped right off the gridiron. You know, and in the spirit of competition, some of the best battles ever are when you kind of judge a book by its cover, and you're like, oh yeah, that big motherfucker's gonna destroy his ass, and then it's like the little guys like don't sweat the technique, and you're like, holy shit, that motherfucker knows how to handle him, you know, and handedly, and then still did business, still lost. Go ahead, do your thing, spear, jackhammer. Oh, I'm going to the pay window. You beat me, everybody. You know,
right.
So yeah.
I thought it was hilarious when they brought Tank Abbott into WCW because Tank Abbott was like a legit brawler, and then you see somebody like Goldberg just plow through him in like 10 seconds and does like the jackhammer thing, and I was just like, dude, in a real fight, Tank Abbott would have literally destroyed him.
Yeah, well, it's all about the motherfucking money. And at that time, they were just doing a game of can you top this? So Tyson was like one of the biggest kind of like needle movers of like, oh, you know, Tyson's doing something with the wrestling, you know. And then, you know, Rodman, Karl Malone, fucking Jay Leno, and all the way up to David Arquette.
Dude, the David Arquette thing is still funny to me. just because you could tell they were sucking air at that point, and they were like, "Fuck, what do? We got to do something crazy." Like,
well, it all tied into the movie.
yeah. Which, I mean, that movie was fun, but like, don't put your company behind it. Like, you know, like it was fun, but it wasn't that fun. Like it was one of those things that was like fun to watch as a kid and fun to watch as like a teenager, like, you know, as like a younger adult and stuff too. But like, don't put the entire company behind that one. Like, don't do that.
I mean, it had to do with that AOL Time Warner. You know, there was big business with that merger, AOL Time Warner, and part of the benefit of keeping WCW around was like, oh well, these are stars that we can make movies with and put in TV shows, you know. And
could they have gotten a less intimidating like main wrestler as an actor as Oliver Platt? Like he's a big dude, but like that's all he is. Like he did not look like a dude as an actor. Like I feel like there's so many other actors that could have played that part that would have been more intimidating looking, like in the wrestler role. Because everything outside of the actual wrestling, he was fucking hilarious. He was great. But in the actual wrestling roles, it always made me laugh because I was like, okay, this goes back to the unbelievable part of the wrestling that I actually liked, you know? Like the part of me that knows the stuff that you can't believe, that part was fun. And that made like watching that on the movie was like, okay, like that hits that part of nostalgia for me. Like the part of it that was just like there's no reality to that part. Like it was just fun.
Coincidentally, I've never watched that movie because one thing that I'll tell you about myself is like I was very gang affiliated when it came to my wrestling growing up. So like I was actually only WWF. Like I only watched WCW. The only time I would watch WCW is if like someone who I really, 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 really liked was wrestling. And when I say really, really, really like, I mean like I would turn over for the Nasty Boys. I would turn over for like the Big Boss Man. Like sometimes I turned over for Piper. I would flip over and see what Piper was doing.
Nice.
A lot of the WWF rejects or kind of like we're gonna go get this money real quick. I kind of followed them secretly, but I would never tell anyone. I also sometimes would like what Flair and Booker T were doing, but like I would never like give Jericho or Benoit or Dean Malenko or Rey Mysterio. I'd never give those guys a chance. I was like, okay, this is that stuff that they're doing to try to beat us. Like it was
sure.
I was us. I was WWF to the core, and this is that stuff that they're trying to use to beat us. I don't want to see it. So I was very much a snotty WWF fan.
How'd you
missed out on a lot.
How'd you feel when they started coming over? Like, did you want them there? Were you like,
I wanted certain ones. I mean, yeah. I was very aware that Stone Cold was Stunning Steve. I knew the Ringmaster was Stunning Steve. I knew that Brian Pillman came from there. I didn't know immediately that Goldust was Dustin Rhodes. I did not know immediately that Goldust was Dustin Rhodes. A friend of mine was like, yo, you know that guy Goldust? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know that's Dustin Rhodes. And I was like, I haven't seen Dustin Rhodes on WCW Saturday Night for a while. You know, and I remember like I hadn't seen him since because I used to steal cable. We had a black box when I was growing up, so I would watch the pay-per-view just to see the outcomes. Wouldn't watch the matches. I would just watch the. I was a real neurotic kid. I realized, but like yeah, I was like, oh, this is cool. Plus, there being something totally new. That's not Cactus Jack. That's Mankind. You know, so
yes. That's 7. Nobody wanted 7.
I didn't watch that, Joshy. I didn't watch that.
7 was a good troll job too, though. That was another good troll job where Dustin Rhodes was just like, "Fuck this!" Like,
well, I mean, in a lot of ways, Goldust was a major troll job because that was like they were doing that to troll Dusty.
Yeah,
I mean, because essentially, he was like, I'm going to make your son a bigger star than you ever could, but I'm going to make him basically dressed like a gimp.
Yeah. And like when he had that match with Roddy Piper, that Hollywood backlot brawl thing, he literally was dressed like a gimp, like the whole fucking time. That was crazy. Like
dude, that's what I mean. He was like, because Vince tried to embarrass Dusty
Yeah.
by taking him from NWA when he had the falling out with that office and putting him in the polka dots. And if you don't know, Dusty was an incredibly racist man. For all the good that he was inside of the ring, he was really like not into black people. So Vince knew that, and that's why he put him with Sapphire. And he made him travel with her and like, you know, help her out and like be like, oh, you're with the black lady, because Dusty hated it.
That's actually really funny, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking back, that totally makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Because and also the whole character of Sapphire was it was like a caricature. Like, so that actually also makes sense.
Yeah. Everything is, dude.
Putting all the math together on that, it's just like, oh man, 2 and 2 is equal and 4 all over the fucking place right now.
Dude, it's so much.
We're solving for X.
It's so much shit. It's so much shit that wrestling like spews into the psyche of like young children.
Sure.
Kind of like mold them into like good little soldiers.
Yeah. You're right about that. So this is funny. You bring up the whole racism thing with Dusty. I want to ask your opinion on this. Do you remember the whole thing when Jack Swagger and whatever the fuck Zebediah or Zeb Coulter?
Zeb Coulter.
Yeah. Do you remember the fourth wall break that they did on that, where it was during the storyline with, I believe it was Jack Swagger and either Eddie Guerrero or not Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, I think. And they were going like full racist in the storyline, like full on racist. And they did like a backstage interview thing, and then they cut the interview off, and then they completely dropped the characters and did the whole like, listen, my name is so and so and my name is so and so. Like, we're doing this as a blah 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 blah. Like, they explained the whole fucking thing. And then they stopped that and went right back into the character and did the rest of the interview. And it was one of the first times that I'd ever seen them like completely break the fourth wall. Like, it was one of the wildest things to watch as a fan, because I was like, oh shit. Like, and they did it on TV. And I know it was because they got in trouble for one of the things that they had said during the storyline, but it was crazy to see it happen.
I have no I love racism in wrestling. I love it. And I love that storyline. At the time I was a New Yorker, I was living in the Bronx, and I really didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't subscribe to cable. I wasn't living like in a building that gave us cable. The only time I got to watch was when I went upstairs and my neighbor had it. So I don't remember that. I have no recollection of what you're mentioning.
Okay.
I remember the time. I remember the racist undertones and really loving that whole thing, but I'm going to have to find that. I would love to see them, like, they stopped and they were like, now, folks, we want to let you know I'm Zebediah Coulter on this show, but my real name is, or like, just like that. And then they went back into like the storyline.
Yeah. And it was crazy because it was literally like that. They cut off, the interview was done, like, or the backstage promo was done. And then like they like readjusted a little bit. And then they were like, what you just witnessed was a promo. And they were like, and this promo is because of a storyline that we're in the middle of with Rey Mysterio, who is a blah, 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 blah. Like, they were straight up explaining it. And they were like, and my character, Zebediah Coulter, Zeb Coulter is this. And like, so he broke it down, like basically saying like, we're being racist characters towards him because our characters don't want his people coming across the border. Like, he was very much laying it out point by point. And then at the end of it, like, Jack Swagger did his thing too, where he was like, my real name is blah, 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 blah. And then they stopped. And then the camera crew came back to them and they went right back into the characters. It was fucking surreal. And it was because, like I said, during that time they had done something that was particularly nasty in the storyline, to the point where people were like furious. Like, it was a bunch of advocacy groups that were like really coming after WWE for it. So I don't know if it was Vince's idea to do this, or if it was Zeb's idea, or like if it was Dutch Mantel's idea to be like, all right,
it was probably USA Network. It was probably Viacom.
Yeah,
that's the parent. That's the parent. Like, they're the ones that really were getting the heat.
Yeah.
Like, how could you have this type of show on your network? So
Yeah.
you know, I 100% believe you, but I wasn't as able to access the product TV wise by the time I was in New Yorker. By the time I was in New Yorker, I was like doing a lot of shows, so I was
Sure.
like getting all of the wrestling that I could take plus more, and had to make that sacrifice. I didn't have the money, like, because cable in New York is like,
It's
your
insane.
if your building's not providing it,
Ridiculous.
it's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'll just watch YouTube. And when Lydia, rest in peace, my upstairs neighbor Lydia will let me come up and watch, you know, in the back room, I'll come up and watch.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can definitely find it. It is on YouTube.
Yeah, I want to take a look at
I
that.
gotta look this up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this actually kind of leads into the current question that I had for both of you now. So Eric Bischoff, I'm not going to get the exact quote right because I don't have it right in front of me, but what he basically said is that the Bloodline storyline, as it is right now, is better than the NWO ever was, even at its peak. And that's interesting to me because it's coming from the mastermind of the NWO. So what do you think on that? Do you agree with that? Disagree with it? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I do.
I think he's absolutely right, because eventually the tail unraveled on the NWO, and it was just like,
Oh, it became horseshit.
what's going on now? Like,
Yeah.
what is the purpose of this? Like, in its infancy, infiltrators coming in, you know, gang affiliated, if you will, with the symbol and the turns and the swerves, very must-see TV. But eventually it was just like, okay, NWO Wolfpack, NWO Black and White, Latino NWO, like, it was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got weird.
where is this? Where is this storyline? It's like, you know, you feel for these characters, like you're invested in what they're gonna do next, and like that they don't get hurt or that they're winners. Like, I give a fuck about the NWO after a while, like any of those members. I didn't care.
Yeah,
So,
especially after they got Disco
100%.
Inferno.
Now, money. Now, when we get down to money, I
Yeah.
don't know if the Bloodline's really like moving the units the fucking NWO did.
No, I don't think so. Money
True.
wise, I don't think money wise that I honestly don't think. I think it's night and day. I think the NWO still to this day moves numbers. Whereas do I think the Bloodline's going to move numbers 15, 20 years down the road? No.
No.
The NWO still makes numbers. They
Yeah.
still have NWO shirts and fucking Hot Topics and stuff. Like, so that's always going to be, I think, higher. But the interesting part about it, like that you just kind of brought up, is that you legitimately give a fuck about these characters with this Bloodline storyline. Whereas with the NWO, like, you cared about it at the beginning. Like when Nash and Hall came in, then you gave a shit. And then when Hogan made the turn, you gave a shit. But then after Hogan made the turn, that give a shit kind of started to peter off. And you're just like, okay, now I'm just watching for fun.
Right.
But,
yeah.
but
Well, they had there was no goal. To take over just to take over the world? Mission accomplished. So now all we're gonna see is TV of like the Four Horsemen going after the NWO, or, you know, Piper and his guys going after and after a while you're like, okay, they're not gonna get beat. Like, so.
Right. So Josh, what do you think on this? Like, you're on Team Bloodline
Totally right,
on this
yeah.
one too?
Yeah, definitely. Bloodline's way more interesting. It's been going on for what, 3 years now?
Fucking has been going on for that long.
Yeah, and at the 3-year mark, it's probably at the hottest it's been compared to when you go to the NWO. When was the start? What was it, 96?
Yeah.
I think
Right
96.
96 or like either end of 95 or beginning of 96.
Okay, so like around, 3 years into that, it started to go downhill. Like I said earlier, the Disco Inferno thing.
Horace.
Yeah. There was actually a weird storyline I remember with the NWO where they were fighting over leadership.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it just made no sense to me, because I was like, why are you guys fighting again?
Because they had nothing. They had nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like,
it was like, what?
Yeah, they were like, throw anything at the wall, see if it sticks. Like, hey, maybe you're the leader now. No, I'm the leader now. Oh, let's do this for like 5 weeks. I'm doing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like we don't care.
And then Jeff Jarrett came over and was like, "I'm the leader now."
It was which version of Ed Leslie is going to show up in the NWO this time? Is it going to be like, how did he get that big of a beard in 2 weeks? He was just the booty man. What the fuck happened? Like,
became a disciple.
Yeah.
I truly think with the Bloodline storyline, not only it's like probably the best thing going on right now. I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like the Bloodline storyline has a very good chance of making people get back invested into wrestling like it was in the 90s. I don't know. I could be wrong. It might be a little exaggerated, but I feel like, as hotter as this thing gets, that will attract more people who, those people that like to say, I used to watch it back in the Stone Cold Rock days. I don't watch it so much now. I don't blah blah blah. I think it will bring those people back, and maybe it might start getting as popular as it was in the 90s. I have a weird feeling about it. I could be totally wrong, but that's how I feel.
I mean, for it to get back that popular, Josh, you just mentioned the name Stone Cold. Like, who has that spark inside of them in today's climate? Mind you, Stone Cold just main evented last year's WrestleMania.
That's
right.
True
Now, who now could really? I would say Roman.
Mm-hmm.
I think Roman could do it, and I legitimately do think that Kevin can do it. I think,
Well,
definitely Sammy.
They're going to bully him because he's fat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the game. Let's get the game. He's not American. He's Canadian. Okay, so he's got to work doubly hard to and his body.
Yep. He's a Canadian with dad bod. Like, it's just that's not.
He likes to bully guys like that into submission.
Yeah, and you kind of seen that with Kevin too, because you've seen periods in his career where he's lost a pretty significant amount of weight.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, he kind of went, "Fuck you, I'm gaining the weight back," and he got
did that
bigger.
In RH too. He did that in RH too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
he's a regular guy. He connects with people because he's a regular fucking guy.
Right.
I feel like that Stone Cold did a lot of really, really regular guy things.
Right.
Kevin Owens is that regular guy, and it comes through his character. So I agree with you. If there are any two guys who could really get to that Rock Stone Cold level, it would be who Stone Cold wrestled last year at Mania.
Yep.
And The Rock's nephew or cousin or whatever the fuck,
Right.
So maybe, Josh, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working myself up over here. Hold on, I'm getting hot.
That's all right. It's good. So this leads into this. Josh, I'll ask you this. With that promo that happened with Cody and Sammy on Monday night.
Yeah.
Did they sell you on Sammy potentially pulling off 100%. This fucking? You think he has the chance?
Well, we were talking about this too, where I was like, they're gonna somehow put Sammy in the main they're gonna somehow put Sammy in the main event, and we were like, how would they do that? And then all he had to do was just come out the ring. Cody, I'm calling you out right now. I was like, there you go, there you go. When I heard him say that, actually was like let's go. It was weird because I was like, I'm a 33-year-old man with my my cat right behind me going, what the fuck are you watching? But I was so excited when I saw that. I got so hype, and I have a good feeling that's how they're gonna do it. I don't really want to look into it more because I want to try to be surprised.
Sure.
So,
Josh, are you saying that you think that it's gonna wind up being a triple threat match at WrestleMania? Cody versus Sammy versus
100%. Also, there was an interview I think a day or two ago where Cody pretty much said, yeah, I totally see how hot Sammy's getting, and that would be cool if they changed the direction this is going. And I feel like that also hinted they're definitely going to go that way.
Well, and I also feel like Cody legitimately would be down to do that. I don't think he would have an actual real issue with that. And but that fucking promo, man, there's a few times recently where there's been a promo in WWE that has really sold me on something. And the few times that it has, it's been great. But this last one on Monday between Cody and Sammy, that was some of the best promo work that I've seen in a long time. It was Sammy is one of those people that, like, I mean, anybody that's obviously familiar with Sammy's work knows that he's incredible in the ring. But talking about having like the look, he doesn't have the look at all. You know, he's soft, he's hairy.
He does when he's El Generico.
Exactly, yeah. When he's El Generico, he's fucking great. Which, man, if El Generico ever came out in WWE, the pop that would get would be insane. Even if he just did it one night, like, people would lose their shit. But the interesting thing, like, I'm very happy that I don't know what the fuck to expect this weekend. That I don't know what to expect in that match between Sammy and Roman. And that makes me happy, because there's nothing, they've done such a good job of building this storyline to where I don't know what direction it's going to go. And that, I'm jazzed about that. You know what I mean? Like, for all I know, Roman could go in there and break everybody's heart and could absolutely beat the living piss out of Sammy, or it could be super competitive, or it could be a screw job finish, or it could be one of those heartbreakers where it's just like the foot was under the rope and we didn't see it, you know? Like, there's so many ways it could go, and so many of these ways work. And that, like, I'm jazzed about that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think that isn't there an Uso who's kind of like this with Sammy behind Roman's back?
Jay. Yeah, it's Jay Uso.
Yeah, that Uso is gonna cost Sammy the match.
That's the thing that I'm leaning at. I think that's going to be where the lean goes, which is going to be part of that heartbreaker finish, where it's just going to be like, you know, he's going to be the one that rips it out from under his feet.
Yeah.
But also,
and then that sets up Owens. That sets up Owens and Sammy back together to fight the Usos at Mania.
Right. But then that also goes even deeper into the storyline. Josh mentioned this, where the storyline the whole time has been about Jay.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, everything, this whole storyline, all the way back to when Roman and Jay had their little thing and they had their program.
Jimmy was in jail or something.
Yeah. I think it was like a DUI or some shit. So they were like, well, what do we do? And what they did is made fucking gold. Like, they made an absolute, just brilliant storyline that now has had all these branches. So now, if it goes back to being really about Jay, that also adds more layers to it. It adds more questions, because Jay, for sure, he could super kick Sammy's head off behind the referee's back and cost him the match.
And right there encompasses why this is so far better than the NWO. There is no one in the infancy of the NWO that you could say at this point in the NWO, well, remember, this has all been about, you know, fucking Hall.
Yeah.
It's been about Hall, Nash, and the Kid. It's been no, dude, no. This thing is compelling. I am with Jim Cornette that I do not agree with Michael Cole in assessing it as though it's Emmy award winning, because, like, wrestling is not. I understand why he's saying that. He wants it to be serious enough in like the acting wise, and that these guys are learning their lines, but no, you know, it's separate from the Emmy award, what society is deemed as like Emmy award winning television. We're more Super Bowl, World Series. So don't take us away from that. Our shit makes more money than that, you know, or as much money as the World Series. So don't take that away from us and try to get us over there too much. But yeah, I get what he means by that. This is the shit that you got to tune in to see.
And it's kind of like once in a generation type of storytelling, you know, like each one of the eras have like their one thing that's kind of like the story that like really encompassed that whole era. And that's what this one feels like. This feels like the one that people will talk about for 20-30 years in wrestling and be like, do you remember the fucking Bloodline storyline? Where, like, the Bloodline story, were you alive for that one? Oh shit, you're not? Let's go on to our computer that's embedded in our palms or wherever the fuck's gonna happen in 20-30 years. You know,
right here. It'll be right here.
Can't talk about wrestling in front of the aliens.
Yeah, they'll get embarrassed. We can't do it. Yeah, I'm super excited about this weekend because of that. So I'm glad we're all in agreement. I'm glad we're all in agreement that the Bloodline storyline at this point has definitely surpassed the NWO.
100%.
You know,
no question.
So what do you got coming up, Larry? What do you got going on? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to tell people about?
just I guess NYWC Psycho Circus out on Long Island, Deer Park, Long Island. It's Babylon on February the 25th. Now, for those of you who don't know, NYWC for many, many years was affectionately known as Mikey Whipwreck's promotion, because out of the ashes of ECW, Mikey started training at this school on Long Island called NYWC Academy. From that was birthed the company NYWC. A lot of legacy guys are from there. Beretta, Kurt Hawkins, Ryan Myers, Tony Nese. A lot of legacy guys that are doing good things. John Silver, Alex Reynolds. And their biggest show of the year, their cage of death, if you will, is called the Psycho Circus.
Love the name.
Well, I mean,
I didn't even know that was their cage of death. I'm excited now. I might come out there.
It is there. It is their blow off. It is their hardcore show of the year. So you are guaranteed barbed wire, blood, thumbtacks, fire. You're guaranteed that for the Psycho Circus. And they've invited me to come back and be the master of ceremonies for it. So NYWC was kind of like, I guess I was a New Yorker for 10 years. And I guess you could say during those 10 years, NYWC was kind of like my home fed. It was kind of like the company that ran monthly, kind of didn't give me the full amount of money that I like to get for these things. But it was kind of like I was their home guy. And this was my home fed. So it means a great deal for me to be going back for this big thing. It's February 25th, Saturday night. Willow Nightingale will be there.
Love her.
Matt Cardona will be in the building. I'll be there. So, yeah, that is all I really have to promote for now.
No, it's good. That's fantastic. You said it's coming out on the 25th?
Yep, February 25th, a Saturday. And then the night before that, the 24th, the original stable that I was a part of, Blackout, which is comprised of Ruckus, Robbie Marino, before it was Joker, Kingston, Chrissy Rivera, myself, Sean Henderson from the H2O Wrestling Academy is doing a Hall of Fame. Sean Henderson presents some sort of acknowledgement. And Blackout, my original team, where I became Larry Legend, is going into this Hall of Fame. So on the 24th, Friday of February, I believe that I'm going to accompany Blackout, Ruckus, and Robbie Marino to the ring to accept their induction into this Hall of Fame. So if anyone is in the H2O Wildwood, New Jersey, Glassboro, New Jersey area and want to come check that show out, I will be there. I'll have merch to sell. And then the next night, I'll be on Long Island for the Psycho Circus. And then that'll be the end of my February.
It's fucking badass, man.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, I love the name Psycho Circus. That's a fun name for a wrestling show, because that already tells you that it's going to be fucking wild.
And wild is one of the reasons that I'm going to be there for it. I hope that if you can make it out there, it's a family fun event. The place will be packed. Again, this is their WrestleMania. This is their Cage of Death. So it's kind of like the culmination of a year's worth of storylines and the big blow off, So if you feel like having a hot night in a cramped building and watching a 2.5 hour show that culminates with a big old hardcore battle, come.
Fuck yeah. And also, I think we need to give the people an update. Are you still allergic to hot dogs? Is that still a thing?
It's funny. It's funny because actually, I only enjoy the hot beef injection. So since a lot of vendors, have pork, and I really don't do any pork on my fork, I am indeed kind of allergic to the pork wieners. So yeah. I only like the beef. So if you ever see me guzzling down a glizzy, it's 100% beef.
We know it's beefy.
Yeah,
all right.
Indeed.
Fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. What a mouth-watering segue that was.
I had to give the people an update, man. Had to give the people a juicy hot dog update.
Yeah. So only beef hot dogs. If you ever want to bless me with a little something to, get my pipes lubricated in between the calling out of the action. Give me that all beef frank.
All beef.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, you got anything else?
What was I gonna ask you, Larry? It was crazy. We were talking about NYWC. Joey Conway's from NYWC.
Indeed,
He's
yeah,
on that show too. He was on. I think he was. I didn't see him post anything about it, but I think he was on Raw last night.
Probably.
Oh fuck, you did mention that.
Yeah, because he came out as one of Bobby Lashley's bodyguards, and then he got clotheslined by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
That was wild.
If you're ever a security guard against Brock Lesnar, you know you're getting fucked up every time.
Yeah, you're done.
If you want to see my cameo on Raw, because Joey Conway's obviously playing the game.
Yeah.
I was on May 9th, Nassau Coliseum. I'm at the very end of the conga line. The what was his name? No Way Jose.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm at the very end of the conga line with Lance Anoa'i. You don't know Lance Anoa'i. He is actually Roman Reigns' I don't know, cousin or some shit. He's Anoa'i, okay? So he was also at the time kind of playing the game, showing up and doing things, coming out and no way, Jose, I'll do anything, look at me, So yeah, Joey Conway, more power to your brother. Just don't compromise your principles.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of like it's a lot that goes on. It's a lot that goes on there.
Of course there is.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't doing WWE without making a lot of probably very unsavory sacrifices. Like that's just the way that is.
Yeah.
But I can now say that I now know two people that have been in the No Way Jose conga line. The other one was a female wrestler out of Utah named Marty Daniels.
Huh.
So she was also in the conga line, and I remember seeing it because her husband Mark is her biggest cheerleader, and he was all over the fucking internet. He was like, "Yo," he was like, "My fucking wife is in the conga line," and then she showed up she did like one of the AEW dark shows when they were still in Jacksonville, and that was the first time I'd seen her do something like on TV like that. And it was kind of hilarious to see her in the conga line because I was like, she's a fucking ass kicker too. And just to see her doing the dance, I was like, you know what? Good for you, Marty. Good for you.
Oh yeah,
like, you have fun with that.
Well, I guess what I'm talking about is that's called extra work. Obviously, what Joey Conway did last night on Raw, and what I've been called on to do a handful of times is called extra work.
Sure.
And part of my path to WWE ended when they told me in no uncertain circumstances that I was going to have to do a lot of extra work before I would ever be considered to hold a microphone in my hand and announce anything or do backstage stuff. It would be a lot of extra work to even get an opportunity. And I have more fun being in the Kingsland announcing Casanova Valentine Day.
Oh, damn right.
Yeah.
Going and waiting around catering. Although the catering in the WWE is top notch. I'm sure y'all have heard that is some motherfucking good catering. Half the time, you're like, I'm going to be on Raw maybe, but fucking catering, know? Like, it's good.
That's my goal if I ever get involved in the wrestling business, WWE catering. Like I just want to get there and be like, I made it.
Right.
And that's it.
Nobody could give you shit for being in catering. You'd be like, fuck yeah, I was in catering. I am full.
Yeah.
They got cereal, they got fucking filet meat, they got steak, everything, bro.
Damn.
Everything.
Do you think the
cups for days, just like caught everything.
Do you think the people that were in Raw Underground, do you think that would be considered extra work? The ones that got squashed by the actual wrestlers?
Those guys were all underneath guys.
Well, no, the reason I ask is because I have a couple of my friends that were indie wrestlers that went to do the Raw Underground thing, but like they didn't even give them a name. Like they were not even introduced as anybody. They just got squashed by like Dabakato or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
those guys are extras.
That would be considered extra work.
Yeah.
Just going in there and get your fucking face wiped on the mat. Like, yeah, you're gonna go in there. Shayna Baszler is gonna choke you out in like 30 seconds. So,
but you know what else was extra work?
What's that?
James Ellsworth.
Oh,
so that's what I'm saying about playing the game.
I see what you're saying.
Joey Conway is just fucking whatever. I just did the conga line. Your friends were just in Raw Underground. But one night, they asked for an extra to go out there and get his ass kicked by Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, this guy is fucking made.
The chinless wonder, James Ellsworth.
It's all about the game, bro.
For the record, I hated that whole storyline. You know. But
I hated him winning the first ever women's Money in the Bank. I thought that was
ridiculous.
That was a troll.
That was for sure a troll.
Yeah. So yeah, but
you know what? Come to think of it, after this whole thing, now that I think about it, no, my favorite troll job actually was Sasha Banks and Naomi just being like, "Fuck you," and then just leaving. That actually was my favorite.
If only we could have seen them put the belts on Laurinaitis' desk.
That would have been amazing just to be able to see that clip.
I feel like if you've ever saw, I don't know if this is recent or old, but there's this clip of fucking Mercedes on Stone Cold's podcast, and she's like, I'm tired of pizza. I've had enough pizza.
Yeah.
Like Vince McMahon. You know, like I feel like that tone was how she was like, so your belts, you can have them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like she really just dressed them down, and Laurinaitis was probably like, oh, I don't know what to say. But I just feel like, knowing the diva, the proud woman that she is, she didn't go in there screaming like a banshee. She was like, so your belts, you can take them and do whatever you want with them, because me and Naomi, we're about to make real money, more money than you can ever offer us.
Money.
Yep.
Okay.
Seriously, man, the fact that they believed in themselves enough to do that made me very happy. The fact they were like, if you're not going to respect us, we don't want your fucking belts. Here they are, kiss our asses on the way out. Like, and it was beautiful to see that. Like, and that I have to say is probably my favorite troll job. And just to be like, fuck you. Like,
nice callback.
Yep.
You hit the nail right on the head. They believed in themselves, which is kind of what the WWE breaks you down to not do. One thing that I've heard from a lot of people that have been in the process is that the sword of Damocles is always over your head when you're contracted to WWE. And they make a lot of efforts to remind you that you're replaceable and that there's another Ricochet right behind the Ricochet that's on TV,
right,
doing these things. And that is just kind of a work environment that alone makes you feel like that my mental health is being assaulted all of the time.
Yeah.
Sure. That makes sense. That's kind of what I have found interesting with this whole, like, the quote unquote new regime of WWE, where the people that were fired were coming back, because it's interesting to me to see it, because I know that a lot of the people that were fired that are coming back are people that are pretty steadfast about who they are, as a performer. And so it kind of makes me wonder what really is going on backstage. What really is, like, how much of Vince McMahon is still left back there. Like, it legitimately has me curious, because I honestly don't think that Cross would have came back if there was still a whole shitload of Vince McMahon left. Like, I really think that he just wouldn't have done it, because Cross is somebody that I've seen, make a name.
There's really a lot of truth to the term Triple H guy. You do know that there is really a lot of truth to the term Triple H guy.
Oh, of course.
So when Hunter got the demotion, guys were like, "Oh fuck, I'm gone! Like, get me the fuck out of here, Malachi Black."
Yeah.
They were Triple H guys carrying Cross. Now that Papa Hunter is back, they're like, "Oh well, Gabe is back."
Yeah. Yeah.
There's truth to being a Triple H guy.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you on that.
So
and also,
now that Vince is back in this whole sale, it's like, I wonder if those guys who came back are like, "Oh, did we come back too soon?"
Yeah. There's also that. That's come to think of it, that is interesting because that makes me question so many more things now, because when Cross got brought back, he got brought back as a fucking killer. And now, ever since the Vince McMahon sale thing happened, he's kind of just floating around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. That's gonna get my brain juices going, because
I mean, it's one of the reasons that we're even having this conversation, because it is a great time to be a wrestling fan right now. It is probably the best time ever to be a wrestling fan right now, because there's so much to talk about and muse over and figure out the minutia of the companies, of the behind the scenes, of the sale, of the, it's just like, it's almost too much.
yeah, there's so much to chew on. There really, really is. And I can't think of another time as a wrestling fan where it's been like this. Because even the WWE, even the WWF, WWE, WCW times, like when there was like the invasion and shit, there was still so much kayfabe there that was just like, it wasn't quite enough to chew on as much as it is now, because now like that they've been very picky and choosy about the kayfabe that's there.
Yeah.
And that's like, I like that though, because like it's like they're not insulting the intelligence of the fans anymore, but at the same time they're giving you just enough to hold on to, just enough, and they're doing it really fucking good right now. Like, so wrestling fans are eating real well in that catering right now.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not the only like talk show podcast that I've been on, like, this month. Like, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of insight that we all can give together, and what a time to be alive that we can do these things and kind of like, just shoot the shit, shoot the chat over the old grabs.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Speaking of which, I feel like we could talk to you for literally hours, but I don't want to keep you too long, man. This has been,
Josh told me like an hour and a half.
Which is right about where it's right about where we're at. That's the whole reason I'm transitioning like this, because I'm like, right fuck, dude, we could talk to you forever.
We can just keep going.
Yeah. But no, seriously, Larry, you're fucking awesome, and thank you so much for coming on to the show and having fun with us, man.
Thanks for having me. I love passionately talking about a number of things. But if you get me going about wrestling, you're right. I will talk about it for hours. And there's so much more that we can touch on. Like, you asked me like what, the time that I kind of got hooked, but we got to talk about what got me into the announcing part of it.
Yeah, we could do a part 2.
Yeah,
100%.
I wasn't day one like, oh, I'm going to be Howard Finkel. I didn't even know there was a Howard Finkel probably at that time. I just was like, oh, it's on TV.
Yeah.
And eventually that I started to realize what really was keeping me hooked were these voices, these narrators. And that's what I love to call the Bobby Heenans, the Gorilla Monsoons, the Tony Schiavones, the narrators of this shit. That was like, I was like, dude, that's what's making it better. Vince going crazy at the announce booth is what's making me want to, and Lawler trolling him, like, so we can do a part 2, and I'd love to come back and talk some more Grat talk.
Yeah, hopefully we could get you back in the when we go back to the studio in the city, and whenever you're back here, you could join us there. We'll hang out, shoot the shit.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm up there later on this month for Psycho Circus, so I pop in and out off. I travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll set it up, and I'd love to join you in the studio.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, man, this has been fantastic. We're already looking forward to part 2. You literally are a legend, Larry. You absolutely are. So
it kind of sucks.
It's such a cross to bear.
Well, imagine if I was on this and you guys were like had to pull shit out of me, like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
Josh, knows what he's gonna get with Larry Legend, but like there's sometimes where I'm human too, where I'm just like, oh, I don't really feel like it. But
yeah.
But well, you don't feel like it, but you're Larry Legend, and this goes way deeper than kind of like this hype, this kind of I can't think of my words here. Example that I'm giving you, like there have been times even where like I've done a show and I'm really tired, and then the promoter springs on me that there's an after show, and they're like saying like, so you can do that too, and I'm like, dude, like I'm paid and I'm ready to go home,
Right.
and they're kind of like, yeah, but you're Larry Legend, and I'm like, damn, I guess.
And I've seen you tired.
Well, I kind of slowly realized, like, holy shit, yeah.
Yeah.
If there was an after party, you're a dick for not mentioning it to me. Okay, you're a dick for at the end when I'm getting my money that there's something else. But then again, it's Nick Gage versus Brody King.
Right.
What I just gave y'all an example of happened exactly after the David Arquette show in LA. I didn't even know this, but right after that, there was a no ring show. And Brett Lauderdale, the promoter of GCW, was like, I'm ready to get the fuck out of there. We're done this. David Arquette and Nick Gage have just killed each other. He's like, so you got the next show, right? And I'm like, the what? And he's like, well, who's gonna do it? You're here. You're Larry Legend. You're dressed. And I'm kind of like, damn. I guess you're right. I am dressed, and I am Larry Legend. So, all right, come on. So it's like you gotta live up to the moniker, or else they're gonna be like, you ain't legendary.
Right.
Yeah, you would have grabbed that microphone and been like, and I'm not done with you, motherfucker. And subsequently, that is what I did. So
yeah, that's the puke and rally moment at a party where it's just like, get it out. All right, I'm back, motherfuckers.
Hell yeah. Just got to make sure I don't succumb to the booger sugar. I gotta stay up all night long some of these times,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, where can people find you online if they wanna follow you?
I have 2 Instagrams, but I guess the one that's the easiest to follow is at Real Larry Legend. So Real Larry Legend, all one word. And then on Twitter, this one is not as easy, but it's BLKLKP on Twitter. BLKLKP. YouTube is just Larry Legend. Facebook is just Larry Legend. There are a couple of me that exist on Facebook and YouTube, but it's okay. Just look at the content and you'll be able to see wrestling and be like, oh, that's my guy.
That's the dude.
Yeah, and Snapchat, even though I really don't use that, is BLKLKP as well.
Nice. And Josh, per usual, where can people find you?
Website got everything. It's joshalba.com. Got the shows, got the socials, all that, and come to my show in Bushwick, putting it out there at Pine Box Rock Shop, March 3rd.
Ooh, that's a legendary date.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on at Jonas Barnes Comedy on Instagram, at Jonas Barnes on Twitter. That's also where you're going to find my horror podcast, another goddamn horror podcast. Yeah, it's literally called Another Goddamn Horror Podcast.
I just subscribed to one that a guy who I met at a bar introduced me to. It's called The Confessionals.
Oh, yeah. I do know what that is.
Yeah, they're out of Baltimore, which is where I am right now. So
fuck yeah.
And yours is not what is it?
It's called Another Goddamn Horror Podcast.
I'm gonna subscribe.
Yeah, and you can find that at AGHP666 on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And we talk to people from the horror industry all over the place, whether it's musicians, whether it's actors, filmmakers. We've talked to everybody from legendary Brian Usna all the way to we've talked to Gwar. So
wow.
We talk to people all over the place. Pretty much anybody that's into horror, we're down to talk to them. So so if horror is your thing, that's where you can also find me there. But Larry, man, this was fucking awesome. We cannot wait to have you back for round 2 and dig into your announcing and everything. And just there's so much more to talk about, and it's going to be awesome. So, this has been the Monday Nitro Party, and we will see you guys next week as well. Thank you guys very much. Have a great one.
Bye.